Meantime, we just told you the breaking news out of Alabama that the governor has made the decision to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol grounds there as well. That is added to the list of South Carolina, where they're in a review process. But this is clearly part of a national conversation that is escalating right now. I want to bring in our panel and talk about this and more with Kevin Jackson, executive director of the Black Sphere, author of Race Pimping, the Multi-Trillion-Dollar Business of Liberalism, and he is also a radio talk show host. Jessica Ehrlich is an attorney and former Democratic congressional candidate. Welcome to both of you. Good to have you here. You know, this is on everybody's lips right now, Kevin, because it has a lot of larger implications here. And I wonder what your thoughts are from the Alabama governor and the South Carolina governor. Mississippi is considering this, as is Arkansas right now.
Well, let's hope that it eradicates racism, Martha. I mean, that's essentially what the left is after. You know, they never give up anything. This is such a red herring that takes away from the real issue that liberals created this kid that shot up this church. And South Carolina did what America does, which is they responded by saying we're a family. We're not going to buy into this nonsense of it being, it may have been racially motivated, but we're not racially motivated here. So, you know, the blaming the flag is ridiculous. It's not going to do anything. And in fact, I think it's a silly thing to do, because what essentially the left is trying to say is let's eradicate history. If ever history doesn't fit the narrative that we want, let's get rid of it.
Interesting argument in terms of removing that from history. But a lot of people feel that the flags, Jeb Bush has said this, that they have a place in a museum, but that they shouldn't be flying on state capitol grounds. And here's Hillary Clinton speaking about this yesterday.
I appreciate the actions begun yesterday by the governor and other leaders of South Carolina to remove the Confederate battle flag from the State House, recognizing it as a symbol of our nation's racist past. It shouldn't fly there. It shouldn't fly anywhere.
Jessica, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I disagree with Kevin that this is just a left issue. I don't think Nikki Haley or the South Carolina state legislature or the governor of Alabama would consider themselves to be on the left. This is an issue that we address as a society, as Americans, as the way that we want to perceive ourselves, that these states want to carry on and respect what's happened, obviously, in our history. But we're talking now about something that's happened well over 100 years ago, and we need to move forward. I think most importantly, what's, not in that clip of Hillary is that there are issues that go beyond, which I think Kevin would agree on here, just whether there's, racism will be eradicated by removing the flag. It certainly won't. That's just a symbol. But what we need to have are politicians and people like Hillary Clinton, who not only have a long history of working to make sure that we have more equality in this country, but that have solid programs to make sure that happens going forward.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But, here's what it's leading to, okay? Because now we're hearing about removing potentially Jefferson Davis's statue from the U.S. Capitol. We're getting, people who are nervous because they have elementary schools in their communities that are named after Confederate war leaders. So, at Robert E. Lee, there's discussion about removing Robert E. Lee statues from places as well. Do we always sort of get caught up in this hysteria that these are the things that are going to make a change in this country and make everybody feel better, when in reality, it does absolutely nothing to do that, Kevin?
Yes, Hillary Clinton has used the Confederate flag in her own campaigns with Bill Clinton. And if you're going to go back in history and start eradicating things, let's begin with the Democrats. They're the biggest racists on the planet. Their platform was begun with racist intentions. So go back and look at those platforms and let's start getting rid of. The Democrats' platforms were to get rid of the mongrel races, and it was anti-black, it was anti-Asian, it was anti-anything, and that had to do with non-white America. So if you're going to start getting rid and correcting things, how about we get rid of Woodrow Wilson's schools? How about we get rid of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who put two racists on the Supreme Court? How about we get rid of LBJ, who's credited with civil rights legislation, and he's responsible for none of it. He just signed it.
The larger point of what you're saying, I understand. You can go to the founding fathers, many of whom owned slaves. So, do you start removing their name from things as well, Jessica? At what point is it ridiculous?
Well, I think it goes to the point that we were actually making, which is that you need to start actually focusing on policies like new business tax credits, on pre-K education, on making sure that our communities are stronger, that we have a better economy, and that we are all being, brought up, because that's sort of the whole point, is that we have more equality in our society. And there are actual programs and things that need to happen here. You can't eradicate hate completely unless you do what people did in South Carolina, which is come together and say, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to make sure that love and our religion are guiding us. However, there are ways that you can make our entire society better, as we've seen in the history of this country, by making sure that we've got leaders and lawyers. I don't think anyone has set
a better example than the people of Charleston, South Carolina in this issue.
That's exactly right.
And, we haven't really heard that much about that from our leaders. President Obama is going to speak at Clementa Pinckney's funeral service. He'll do the eulogy on Friday. And I hope, Kevin, that he spends some time talking about the importance of faith in that community, the importance of what they did in pulling together and, as black people and white people together, really just talking about their city and how much they love it and how they're not going to give in to these forces of evil.
Martha, it's going to be a pander, just like Hillary Clinton's in St. Louis pulling a Dolezal, acting as if she's black, hanging around a bunch of black folks like she really cares. She doesn't care. Barack Obama doesn't care about anything about South Carolina except it promotes some sort of a racist narrative about this. The citizens of South Carolina did the right thing. They don't care about the flags. They don't care about anything except sticking together. They've got an Indian ancestry governor, and they've got Tim Scott. They've proven that this country has overcome racism, and this is what we're talking about, a silly symbol that quite frankly is nothing more than Southern pride.
All right. Interesting debate. Thank you very much, Kevin and Jessica. We'll see you next time.
My pleasure.